Okay, by my watch, and I think it is now 7 p.m., and we have all 5 commissioners here, so I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the Urbana Park District Board of Commissioners for the month of November. Since everyone is here, no remote attendance is needed. And our first item of business is to hold a public hearing for the Truth in Taxation law. And so we have indeed put out the information in advance, posted our black box in the paper and so on. So the Board of Park Commissioners of the Urbana Park District now opens a public hearing, this being November 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And this hearing is being held at the Planning and Operations Facility at 1011 East Kerr Avenue in Urbana. The purpose of the hearing will be to receive public comments on the proposed tax levy as required by the Truth in Taxation law. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a statement during this public hearing regarding the proposed property tax levy? Now, let me know if there may be folks here wishing to address the board on other matters. This is strictly for our tax levy. Is there anyone of the public wishing to make comment? Seeing no sign of that, I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I move to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously, so we are adjourned from this public hearing and are moving on to the agenda of our regular meeting. And the first item there is either to accept the agenda as presented or to propose a change to it. Do we have a motion to approve it as accepted?
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second?
That's moved and seconded. Is there any comment or question? Hearing none, let's do a roll call this time, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 Okay, so we have our agenda for the evening. And now we're coming to Roman numeral number 4, which is public comment of a more general sort. And is there anyone here this evening wishing to address the board?
Reminder, Chair of Mr. President, of the 3-minute.
Yes.
All right, we've got these ones here, and this person emailed it in, but wanted it read aloud, so I'm happy to do so.
Well, okay. Well, why don't we begin with that one? That'll save us trouble. So this is from, if you would.
All right, this public comment was received via email, and they wanted it read aloud, so I will be doing that. This is Rachel Edwards from Urbana, Illinois. UPD Board of Directors, I'm writing to ask you to please save Weaver Park. By doing so, you will demonstrate that Urbana Park District is capable of being a leader in the increasingly necessary protection of natural spaces. Plus, you have already put in the work and money to establish the prairie and maintain the wetlands, which provides several forms of recreational opportunities for the community. What a gem of a resource we have for nature walks, wildlife viewing, plant study, and future program growth of the already popular nature school classes, as well as educational partnership opportunities with area public schools. It is possible to be innovative and forward-thinking here to expand upon other forms of recreation while saving what you already have. This is a legacy move that surely you can capitalize on in the present. Thank you for your consideration. Rachel Edwards, Urbana, Illinois.
Okay, and the first comment card here, I think is Chelsea Peterson, 404 West High Street in Urbana. And just to remind the speakers, we limit comments to 3 minutes, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm a PhD student who lives in Urbana. I study environmental science. And I'm just here tonight to urge you again to conserve more of the prairie at Weaver Park and enhance the existing prairie. I would like to see the current proposed 50% conservation number of the natural space be increased. And I'm really glad to see that there was a steering committee that's formed with a diversity of expertises represented, and I'm excited to hear about their ideas and the proposals based on the public comments that have been heard over the past few months. And there are a lot of reasons why Weaver is important that have been reiterated by a lot of the people here: conservation, recreation, and education. But what I wanted to talk about tonight is mental health. In a lot of ways, we live in trying times. We're still in a pandemic in many ways. A lot of us have lived here during the pandemic and went to Weaver as a refuge and a respite. And there's also increasingly biodiversity loss of pollinators, birds, amphibians, almost any species that you can think, taxonomic group that you can think of. And these things are being exacerbated by climate change. And we, as a society, we're struggling to address these problems because of toxic polarization. And so I think Weaver is important for conservation in its own right and resilience to climate change, but it's also really important for resilience of the people who have to live through these problems and grappling with it. There have been a lot of times where I've gone to Weaver as a place to reflect and rejuvenate. And I'm hopeful that whatever happens to Weaver, it's still going to be there, but I would like to just see more of its integrity preserved into the future. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this evening. Next up is Amanda Fox from Champaign.
Thank you. I am also here to talk about developments at Weaver and Prairie Parks. And I would like first to thank everyone for their time and interest. We all care about the Urbana Park District and its resources. Let's find a resolution that will make everyone happy. Prairie Park is the focal point with active fields with active fields in and around it, both at Brookins and the south end of Weaver Park, where the Champaign Clippers Vintage Baseball Club enjoyed hosting games this spring and summer. The Urbana Park District and Champaign County have a history of cooperation in their goals to support the surrounding neighborhoods. We are seeing a once-in-a-generation change at both Brookins and Prairie Park, where great things are happening. With that in mind, be bold and open. Explore ideas such as working together to annex a bit of Brookins for playing fields to benefit all, or to secure a long-term 100-year lease, or other new possibilities. I appreciate you working with community stakeholders to resolve this creatively. Now, let's look at equity in terms of access to nature. Meadowbrook Park is 130 acres, of which 80 acres are tallgrass prairie. Crystal Lake Park is 144 acres, of which 59 acres are Busey Woods. Weaver Park, comparatively, a mere 60 acres, boasts a diverse landscape with prairie, wetland, savanna, and woods, including 200-year-old oaks that survived the decimation of the big grove. Taken together, these 40 acres are greater than the sum of their parts. Nature is a finite resource for which we are all stewards for future generations. Why do we continue to diminish it? Let's recommit to our Urbana Park District goal of protecting and restoring areas characteristic of Illinois' most diverse habitats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. George, and I'm sorry I'm having trouble reading yep. 307 East Country Club Road in Urbana. Pleasure to see you again, George.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you guys, getting to know you a little bit more over time. I think you know a little bit of where I stand on all this. And one of our constituents sent us, brought to our attention a link to the 1010 conversation after the conversation where you guys were meeting and talking about all this on your own. And we're posting that on Facebook as well, and probably going to go back into some of the details of that conversation. And I just want to talk, you'd spent a good bit of time talking about messaging, and having worked in advertising and with people in public relations, and being, people who go to Washington for campaigns and so on, before ever working in the parks as a naturalist and a gardener, using natives and all those kinds of things, and community organizer, putting together a lot of other events. And political cartooning. But, so I wanted to try to help make clear what is happening, and I talk about this on my radio show all the time, in our world today when it comes to messaging, communications, PR. And I think one thing I would encourage you to do is look at the Century of the Self documentary about the Freud family, including the nephew Edward Bernays, who is known as he coined the term public relations, and is known as the father of consumptionism, and you can watch him there in his penthouse on Central Park, looking down at the little ants of people and the fun of trying to organize those people to do what the elite want to do, and so on, using Freud's ideas of the undercurrents that we are moved by, because before when we were indigenous peoples having mutual societies and ecologies and economies and so on, we did this all mutually, but then imperialism through greed addiction set up this whole thing of us, turning off feelings to those below, imperial disconnect and hubris syndrome, and there's a number of terms for all that kind of stuff. And there's The Science of Greed, which you can look up online too, by Paul K. Piff, that talks about how these things automatically happen in an imperially structured system, which we're not completely out of, but we tried to get out of with the help of leadership of indigenous peoples and setting up democracy, but didn't really go into a complete democracy, and that's set up in our Constitution as well as an imperial construct as well, which there are movements on the planet now to turn that all around, being indigenous-led and women and people of colors-led around the planet to get us into a real mutual society and economy and so on and so forth at a global level, which is snowballing. And there's other wonderful merging global economy efforts that are exploring all these ideas too. And all that is happening because of the communications that we have now, which is social media as we call it, but it's really a global light-speed mutual people's media that's mutualizing our world. So that's why it seems like strange that, that the people aren't just kind of cowing to when you come up with an idea and you think that it needs to move, and they're not just going along with it. Are we done with time?
About 10 seconds.
Okay, so it's important to realize that this is about mutual society and mutual communications, and that we are all trying to process this all very well together and for holistic mutual well-being. And that's what this is all about, and that's what Weaver can be a wonderful catalyst for. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And River O'Leary, is that correct? 908 North Broadway in Urbana.
Hello. I feel like, we're all just here showing up for the same stuff and saying a lot of the same stuff. I'm here to support keeping Weaver Park as it is and the resource that it is for plants, animals, and people. I live kind of near Crystal Lake Park in Busey Woods, and I'm watching the golf course near there cut down all of these trees with huge, they're like 50 to 80-year-old trees. And so that's what the businesses in our community are doing, cutting down trees, decimating fields with plants and any little bit of wildlife, and climate change shielding plants like trees. So if we're not going to do it as the Urbana Park District, who else is going to do it? I really don't see a lot of businesses in our community pushing for environmental protections. I don't really see them, creating ecologically sustainable housing or anything like that. So it's just the business world is working against the environment and the ecology and nature and plants and animals, and like how many animals have become extinct the past 10 years. Like we're in a mass extinction, and for the Urbana Park District to, play into that is, it's a big choice to make, and it represents a lot for our community and for the world. So I really just hope that we can, do the right thing and make sure that we are protecting places that are natural and so lush, and where soil is being restored, where there's wetlands for all of these beautiful birds and mammals, and where we can have a safe, quiet place to enjoy them as people, and stand for something greater, because the world is not doing that. And I think it's important that we make the choice to do that as the Urbana Park District, because of who Urbana is as people. Like, I think that a lot of us really just love the planet and love the earth and want to see things come back into balance. And there's a saying, every raindrop raises the sea. Every little thing that we do to save the planet does make a difference, even if it doesn't really feel like it. And I think if we just say, oh, well, it's another piece of land that can just be turned into something else, I think that can be harmful.
10 seconds.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Mason, 604 East Oregon.
Been wanting to come to a meeting like this for quite a while. Weaver Park is near and dear to my heart. Used to be mostly just me. I remember it as a cornfield or soybean field. It was monoculture agriculture. But I would go there to have open space and to see the sunrise or sunset. It's very precious to me, and not just me. I've seen it grow. We've invested a lot in this place so far. I've seen it turned from monoculture agriculture to a thriving, biodiverse ecosystem with not only prairie, but a woodland section and a wetland section, or two. There's a marsh in the woodland section. I've known these woods for many years, and I must shout out to David Monk and Bob Viden, who have worked hard to make it what it is now. And I don't think it should be messed with at all. I prepared a few statements. Let's see where I start here. I think the value of Weaver Park is priceless to our city, our village. Don't really put a price tag on the biodiversity, but it serves us well. It will serve generations to come. We've lost most all of our natural ecosystems in this state. We are down to 0.1% of natural prairie remaining. I think it was really a success story of what we have here to restore this area into its more natural state, and it is thriving. I would hate to see it messed with at all. I don't want concrete pathways. Okay. Not very long ago, the land was used for monoculture, agricultural uses. I visited there to watch sunsets and birds, skunks, and whatever else I could see. Once it was the aerial display of a woodcock. Incredible. Now, after continued efforts to restore this area to its natural balance, life is thriving. Biodiversity is increasing every year. As I see new arrivals, both large and small. I'm a biologist by training, and I did study under David Monk. This is the value that I see as priceless. Our living earth struggles to survive in the age of humans and changes assaults on natural cycles since early humans first started working on the
10
land
seconds.
and tweaking natural systems for our benefit. Weaver Park is priceless and need not require much funds now if we let it be.
Time's
We've
up.
invested a lot and successfully restored this biodiverse land.
Excuse me, but your time has expired.
Time's out. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can't read the last name. It's David, 907 East Washington Street.
Huber.
Huber,
H-U-B-E-R.
okay, all right.
Hi, my name is David Huber, 907 East Washington. So Weaver Park is my favorite park in Urbana. I've shared this with a lot of people, my feeling about it, and it's odd because I've lived here for 5 years only in the Midwest, in California, and they go, ooh, Weaver Park, what? These are people who've lived 20 years. So there's a little bit of like a communication problem, and I think if more people were aware of it, and now that I'm understanding its kind of history and that it was a kind of temporary use perhaps, et cetera, maybe there was never that kind of mandate to kind of push it harder. Anyways, I agree with what has been said by a lot of people here, the more ecological aspects and so on. I guess I just want to try to bring another perspective to it. I'm from California. Like I said, I haven't lived in the Midwest 5 years. Prairies are the most extraordinary thing about the Midwest as someone not from here. We should really cherish that. And so I'm thinking about the Kickapoo Trail. This is a kind of gateway to our city. They're going to pass the monocrops. They're going to pass a Walmart. They keep going to pass Schnucks. Imagine, they could come into our city, into a prairie, instead of something that every other city has. Fields, soccer fields, sports fields, athletic fields, a kind of generic park. We can do that elsewhere. This is an extraordinary gateway. I guess, I'm uncomfortable here because I'm typically someone who's more a kind of, doesn't usually show up trying to stop something because I'm more involved with planning, economic development type issues, real estate ones, et cetera. That said, I think it's an extraordinary resource that we have. The Park District generally, I think, needs to see its role more broadly, not only in terms of parks, but in terms of economic development, in terms of our kind of values as a whole city. I think the problem of that park is not that there's a lack of fields. Those can be achieved elsewhere, but really kind of understanding it as a centerpiece to a whole series of neighborhoods, specifically the one I live in, which is, some people call it East Urbana, whatever it is, let's say between Florida, Maine, Vine, and Philo Road, except for Victory Park, which is quite small, there's not really parks in a substantial way. And if I would like to see that neighborhood better connected to something like a Weaver Park, whatever we call the Prairie Park, et cetera. And, just one last thought, DART, the land that is behind DART that they own up to Washington Street is a sinkhole. Can't really be built on, apparently. When Magnavox was there, it was sinking. Maybe it's something we can use
Your
fields
time has
for.
expired,
Thank you.
Please. Mary Durstock, 1109 Scoville in Urbana. Oh, you just want the, oh, okay. I thought, my mistake, excuse me. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Seeing no sign of that then, let's move on with our agenda. The next up is staff introductions. And I think
Hello, I am Rich McMahon. I'm the ground supervisor at the Park District. I have been for the last 12 years or so. Want to introduce Evelyn Ambrosio tonight. She started with us as a landscape seasonal in 2022, worked with Georgina all last year, and started out this year doing the same thing, but has moved into the role of athletic fields technician as of about halfway through August. Actually, she's coming up on her 3-month anniversary. So she's learning a lot of new things. She's doing a fantastic job. She's a go-getter, gets along with everybody, great. But I will let her tell you a little bit more about herself.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Ambrosio. As Rich has said, I started here last year as a seasonal in landscaping, working with Georgina. This year as well, I started working with her, and then I was lucky enough and got into being the new athletic field technician, which I really love. Everyone here is an incredible team to work with, staff. I have a great supervisor that is teaching me a lot of good things. He is really fast speed supervisor. There's no competing with Rich. I lived my whole life in Urbana. I love this town. It's really nice. I grew up in Champaign, went to Stratton Elementary. There, like 5th grade, I moved to Urbana and went to middle school and high school. I am currently in Parkland College. I'm studying business administration, and I'm still halfway through my career, so almost done. But yeah, I really enjoy working here, and I hope I further my career with you guys too.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome and thank you for coming out tonight.
Thanks, Owen.
Thank you.
Next up, Roman numeral 5, Urbana Park District Advisory Committee report. We had a written set of minutes. Is there anything else anybody wanted to add to that? Hearing none, then let's move on to Roman numeral 6, our consent agenda. And on the consent agenda this evening, our approval of the minutes of the October 3rd board study session and the October 10th regular board meeting. The monthly departmental reports, namely administration, planning and operations, and recreation. Approval of the monthly paid accounts payable, and action to accept the philanthropy report and gifts listed with gratitude. And for those watching at home, under the rules of our consent agenda, it is the purview of any single commissioner to remove any or all items from this consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Is there any commissioner wishing to do so? Seeing no sign of that, then, is there somebody prepared to make a motion that we approve all the items on the consent agenda in an omnibus fashion?
I move that we accept all the items on the consent agenda in an omnibus fashion.
Second?
That's moved and seconded, and under our consent agenda rules, there's to be no further discussion once the matter is on the table. This requires a roll call vote. I'll start with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. So all of these items have been approved or accepted in an omnibus fashion. Takes us on to reports, starting with financial reports.
Good evening. Jumping right into our revenue and expenditures reports. These reports showed revenues and expenditures for the past prior 12-month period. Budget for the current period and preliminary unaudited results for the past 6 months, ending on October 31st of 2023. Sum 1 is page 1. This is all funds excluding the capital improvements fund. Revenues for this period, $10,180,400. This number is up $614,000 from September, noting that 8.5 million of that total revenues is our property taxes. We did receive our 5th distribution for $357,000. And we received that on October 26th. That puts us at almost 95% of our tax monies, and we are anticipating one more additional distribution, approximately $400,000. Expenditures are $5,106,793, giving us a surplus after 6 months and of $5,073,607. Page 2 is our capital improvements fund by itself. Revenues for these 6 months, $3,039,384, and expenditures $2,835,972. Still keeping us revenues over expenditures. Whoop whoop. $203,413. Relish that. Next page is sum 3. This is all funds district-wide. Noting at the very bottom, ending fund balance, all funds, $19,413,048. Remaining reports are the individual fund reports for the 3 working funds, general, rec, and museum, and the last pages are indoor pool.
I do have a question about the Indoor Aquatic Center Fund. That showed a deficit of $200,000. Is that typical?
Yes.
That's depressing.
It is. We're 6 months in, and we, for the last several years, have been approaching that 500,000 mark. We were well over that last year, but
okay.
And we're probably going to see a very large number this year because we've invested, right?
Yes.
As a collaboration with the school district to make some extensive improvements over the course of this year.
Right.
So we've planned for that, and the number will be big.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Second set of reports is our treasurer's report. This report lists the amounts of cash the district has on a single day, October 31st. All 25 funds are down the left. Where it's invested is across the top. Noting at the bottom right that investments total, as of this date, $21,669,754.68. The top of page 2, this section lists what we have invested in interest-bearing accounts of that $21,669,000 from page 1. $16,704,510 is all out in investments at varying rates. I just wanted to make a note that the IPTLAF items there, you're comparing reports, you're going to see that the 4 one-year CDs is 0 on this report. Those CDs did mature on October 31st. So the intent is to reinvest them, probably in laddered CDs, but the monies are in the money market. So we do have CDs, they just matured, they're sitting in the money market, we'll reinvest. So, in case anybody's comparing. The bottom of page 2 is our interfund loans, no activity. And page 3 is the last section of our treasurer's report. This lists disbursements for the month of October. The vendor payments listed here match the accounts payable reports in the consent agenda, and total disbursements of funds, which include payroll and vendors, $2,279,511. And here I would just make a note that liability fund had $234,000 in expenditures. October is the month that we renew our insurance. This year, $211,000 of that is for our district insurance. And of course, capital improvements, over $1 million. Probably get used to seeing that for a while. I present to you the treasurer's report for audit.
Have a motion to accept the treasurer's report
I
for audit.
move to accept the treasurer's report for
Second.
audit.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on the matter? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And Roger?
Aye, sorry, I spaced out.
That carries unanimously.
All right, we'll move through the capital budget reports. Areas highlighted with an asterisk are the new activity during the month of October. Page 1, 2019A, capital improvements. We had no new revenues, and although only a couple expenditures, we had $13,701. This was expensed to Farnsworth for Health and Wellness Design number 7. $3,621 expensed to Farnsworth. This was in regards to Weaver Planning, number 9. The next 3 items there, actually we've got the $14,148 to Farnsworth. That's also design out of using our park grant. And then we had a $1,438,426 expense to core for health and wellness. This was construction number 5 and number 6, so 2 bills worth. And that was divvied out between our park grant, DCEO grant, and city ARPA. So $658,000 was park, $154,000 DCEO, $228,000 using city ARPA. Page 2 is our 2023 budget. We did receive a total of $1,900 for tributes and donations. Down in expenditures, we did purchase $2,579 worth of assorted trees, plaques, nameplates, and we spent $181 on miscellaneous supplies for our construction crew projects, stains, caulks, adhesives, things like that. 2022 budget, no new revenues, expenditures for the Meadowbrook Playground. We paid Upland Design a total of $28,000, $14,000 using our donations, $14,000 using OSLAD grant. We also paid to Fairgrams $13,852. This was construction engineering for the Broadway ITEP project. And at the very bottom, we had $9,771 to Backhoe is the company, if I'm saying that correctly. And this was for a tennis practice board in Blair Park.
Oh,
Backhoe?
isn't that up yet? I'll go with whatever your pronunciation is. I will go with that.
Okay.
I've only read it. I've never. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Let's see, 2021. Budget, no new revenues. We had $1,177 in tribute trees. I think that period had 6 requests to come up with that total. And then some small expenditures out of the 2020 budget, $105 under hardscapes and fencing. This was the, I think the $105 was the CAD again, like CAD equipment rental. Using up a little bit of expense there. And then on the last page, which is our 2019, $433 to fair. And this was just a little piece of the road design, trying to use up this older budget. I believe that is it. And Andy and Derek will have capital project updates.
I will start with health and wellness. Site's getting a little more exciting now.
Oh, wow.
We're going vertical. They've had 2 phases of their steel delivered. So on the left is early on. This is just the phase 1. This is the gym section. And then here's looking towards Brookins, and this is the office portion, and then the gym behind it. And this is more up to date where you can get a view. This is actually looking from the parking lot to where the front door is, what we call like the admin wing and the fitness spaces, and then the gym area. And so they'll continue to do some of the metal building work. They've got most of the materials for that delivered. This week they're starting on some CMU in the interior walls and doing rough-ins for electrical with the building. And going to kind of our FF&E, I think this is the slide I've been bringing back just to update on our furniture for the entire building. We have a bid opening. We actually pushed it back 2 weeks, so it'll be the last week of November. We're getting a lot of questions on approving alternate furniture pieces, things like that. So we wanted to give everyone more time, all the bidders more time to submit their documents to us. But ultimately, our schedule goal was to have a recommendation to the board in December. And so having this opening at the end of November, we're still on pace to do so. And then for December, we're also hopeful that we will have an IT proposal to you all. We've been working with MCS. It's kind of our external IT group outside of the city scope for the district. And they have a proposal for a wide variety of IT needs for the facility, security cameras, access control, AV equipment, speakers throughout the building, projection system in the multipurpose room, sound equipment, microphones for the fitness instructors. So they kind of touch basically every room of the whole building. And we've been working with them for probably as long as we've been working with Farnsworth on this building and everything to try to get included with this. So hopefully next month we'll have something for you all to review and have a recommendation for you. And then I want to touch on kind of our series of phased improvements of Crystal Lake Park, just a few plan sheets for one of the next improvements that we have going. We're probably at about 95% of our bid documents for lighting replacement throughout the park. So this is showing just a series of the poles and wiring for the Lake House Large Pavilion, down the parking areas, primarily just replacing the existing lighting infrastructure. And then here you can see the new playground and going down the hill where we have some lights into the small pavilion. And then we've also included the Nature Center outdoor pool parking lot. Basically, these fixtures are going to be the same that was used for the Updeck Learning Pavilion, other than they are not solar. But they are the same fixture itself. So we'll start to get a lot of similar design, but also for maintenance purposes and to keep everything the same will be beneficial for us. And we're looking to have this bid this winter, maybe in the next month, and could have a recommendation to you all January or February at the latest, I would assume at this point. And then tonight, we're also doing capital budget revisions and approval of 2024 capital budget. So I think this is usually the time I briefly go through the remaining years for our draft 5-year capital plan. And I won't go line by line on each year, but I will touch on some of the larger projects that we have included. So 2024 is coming tonight in a separate board item. And then so 2025, some of the larger items, we have King Park project, Gateway Trail improvement, looking at the trail on the east side of the park. And also the playground is due for replacement at that time. We're looking at potentially utilizing an OSLOD grant for this, and may see some other improvements to the courts or adding other recreational amenities to King as well. We also have some money identified for EV charging installation. Not specific to where that's going to go. We have prepared the Health and Wellness Center to be able to do some public vehicle charging. So this may be a year where we can phase that in. And then if you remember, I think we talked maybe a little bit about the painting schedule that we've had a contractor look through priority painting projects. So we've tried to put this in our 5-year plan in 25 Ambucks restroom painting. 26. We have a couple playgrounds that are on our replacement schedule at Victory and Sunnycrest. We also added another painting project for the Meadowbrook Corn Crib and the Interpretive Center exterior painting. And this is also where we start putting together funds for improvements to the Lake House terrace and stairs, that connection from the lower Lake House level to the large pavilion up top. And then in 27 is our second of the 2 years where we have Lake House terrace and stairs funding. And this is the first year we're starting to put funds towards the replacement of Busey Woods Bridge. I think we touched a little bit on that. We're going to start some preliminary engineering this winter on what that replacement might entail with some cost estimation. And so now we're starting to put funds together for that replacement, which hopefully we could also tie in a museum grant as part of that. And then 2028 is more funding for Busey Woods Bridge, and we have a Crestview Playground. And that's where we're at for major projects on the 4 years after the 24. Happy to answer questions.
What is the actual shell of the health and wellness facility likely to be coming on site?
It's like a metal.
When? I mean, when is it?
Oh, when? I'm sorry. Pretty soon. Yeah, like in the next month or so.
So the hope is definitely to have it closed in
Yes.
before the worst of the winter.
That's the goal.
We hope the workers are motivated.
Yes.
We assume they are.
They are going to hold off on pouring some of the internal concrete slab until it's enclosed, try to get better curing. It's going to be polished concrete, and so we want to have good concrete. Yeah.
Okay, unless there are any further questions on the capital budget report, let's move on to the executive directors.
Great, thank you, Michael. I think you all received the You Belong Here report. Let us know if you have comments or questions. Just a couple updates on CU Special Recreation. Just wanted to mention we had a really terrific play, The Adventures in Oz. We had a terrific group show up. We had over 140 people in the audience, about a 20 cast member for that production. In addition to the characters, we have helpers that work with them, so it's just really wonderfully done. There's a lot of creative touches, both in the set design and just the way they deliver the performance. Just want to give a lot of credit to the director this year, John Tilford. The assistant directors are Anita Stein from Urbana, of course, and we had a new assistant this year, Latrell Bright. You may recall Latrell. She performed at the Meadowbrook Interpretive Center this past time with Deke Weaver, and their kind of our special production we had there. It's very talented. Worked with the participants, and just getting a lot of high quality experience. I think we'll continue to go up and up. Remember, we do our play theater series, and then we do the film series, so we alternate. So we're really excited about that work, and we probably feel there aren't many other special rec districts doing this quality of high level work. The participants love it, the families respond, and they hosted a party afterwards where they watched The Wizard of Oz and had snacks, and everybody was invited. So really good day, really good time. Just want to remind commissioners, we have our annual joint meeting for CU Special Rec December 7th at 5:30, the CUSR Center. And I think I mentioned, or we relayed to y'all, we're trying to focus a little more on our ADA improvements that we're making in both districts. We think that's an important thing to share. So we have some opportunity to update you on a few of those improvements in both districts. And then we had our...
Is that at 5:30? Sorry, I just want to confirm that
Yes.
meeting is 5:30.
Yes, that's correct, 5:30. I wrote 5 o'clock for me to be there, but the meeting starts at 5:30.
And where is it again?
It's at the CUSR
I-
Center, that's on Sangamon Drive,
Yeah.
right next to Jefferson and the Leonard facility there.
Right.
Then just to mention, we hosted our Cupcake 5K last Sunday. It was just a perfect day, weather, huge numbers of people. I think there were probably 375 runners. They also had 100-yard dash for kids, and there were some other kid activities. Urbana was there. Just a great turnout. We think we can really improve that event. That'll probably be our signature event. Our hope is that we can alternate, do it a year in Champaign, and then bring it over to Urbana. So we're already in discussion about that. We've been in construction. Crystal Lake would be ideal. There's another race at Meadowbrook. We'd consider that. That's a long-term race, the Rattlesnake Master run there. So certainly want to encourage them to continue at Meadowbrook, but we look forward to hosting it in the near future. Just wanted to share, if you didn't see the paper of the news, the Champaign Park District did receive the NRPA Gold Medal. They had made a couple of applications in the past, but this time around they received it. They've actually received it was their 4th time, I think 3 times during General Manager Bob Tolson during his time, and then this new time. So
What was
very,
it based on?
there's a large application. We applied a number of years. We were a gold medal finalist, I think, for 3 years in a row. We received our finalist medal, but it's a very high level criteria of achievement category. There's a professional quality video you need to submit. So really proud and pleased of their work, and just wanted to make sure you all were aware of it. Let's see, just wanted to mention for the policy committee, we'll probably have a need to meet. We'll be reaching out, so we'll get connected with you all. And we may, just while I'm on that, may need to get together with our UPDAC planning group as well for coming up in the new year. Kelsey will be out on leave, so maybe we'll do some advance work and try to get some dates set up. KRT update, as you know, we had the terrific fundraiser at Sleepy Creek last week. Really nice turnout, just really good time. But we were very happy to announce formally, or it's kind of a soft announcement, and the formal announcement's going out today, that we've received $11.2 million to build the rest of the KRT. So that's a project that'll spread out over 2 counties, 3 districts. For the Urbana Park District, obviously we'll receive funds for the trailhead facility at Weaver Park. So we're really excited about that news. Right now, we've kind of worked through with the DCO funds. The goal was to get the application to receive the money up front. None of our 3 districts have the cash flow to manage that level. Champaign County Forest Preserve will be the lead agency. 1 group had to be assigned to receive the money. We'll jointly hire a construction crew or managers or a owner's representative that will help manage all 3 projects. So we do need to get busy on that. We'll have typically about a 2-year window. Obviously, if we need an extension, we may be granted that extra, but we really need to get to work on that and start that effort.
So are funds also other, like, is there a sub-award process so that if we're building something, we're in control, or it's all going to be this
Probably,
joint
we've talked
planning?
about putting an IGA together that would
Okay.
maybe spell that out. We have a meeting, I think,
Okay.
coming up on Friday, so we can probably talk a little more about that. But some way of transferring funds back and forth and making sure the bills get paid. And each group then would be independent. Certainly you couldn't mess your project up and expect another district to, cover your cost or whatever. So we'll have to come up with a working plan for managing that. We already have our small, I call small, IGA that lets us operate
Right.
like this, but I guess we anticipated another IGA or some tool to allow us to work at that scale. So stay tuned for that, but terrific news. There should be some news coming out probably tomorrow and Friday through the different media outlets. Let's see, I think I shared the news with the Peace Poll, just getting a lot of, at King Park, getting a lot of feedback positive on that. So just really pleased with the artist. And that kind of rolls up to the next one, the Martin Luther King Peace Walk. January 15th will be the kind of the celebration of that. We'll be working with Urbana Rotary and Champaign Park District. And the idea this year is we'll be walking and leaving from King Park, Jetty Rhodes Pavilion, over to the Douglas Center, and then for those coming back to Urbana, return back. So we're excited about that. Just a reminder that we have the AFP Awards January 17th at the Champaign County Country Club to honor Fred and Nancy Del Coleman.
Friday.
You said
Sorry.
December?
It's
Sorry,
November.
November.
It's
I
this
wrote-
Friday.
Yes.
I wrote January, sorry. Thank you. It's coming up next week.
Today.
For that
This
gift.
week. This week.
Sorry,
This
3
Friday.
days.
This Friday.
This week.
Yeah. And
We know you've been busy too.
yeah, honoring Ellen Kirsanoff for her lifetime award too. So very excited to have 2 UPD groups and folks included in that. And then just wanted to remind commissioners, if you have goals in mind, it says goals review, it should just be goals. Just any ideas you have for this upcoming fiscal year, which obviously doesn't start until, our new fiscal calendar. But if you have goals in mind or things you're thinking of, let me know and we'll make sure it gets into the mix as best as we can. Let's see. And then staff's working on the annual UPD priority projects report that will ultimately in 2024 in January go to the foundation so we can share. So the idea of that report is that we identify high priority projects, notify this board, and share that with the foundation so that we're all working together, at least understanding what those priorities are. And we certainly understand other things come up and donors have different ideas, but certainly want to pitch what we think are the priority ideas. So I can answer any questions about that or anything else.
Did I miss what you had to say about the UPD staff retreat? Was there?
Oh, yes, thanks. That was Thursday, November 9th at Blair Park. We had a really great time. Typically, we try to go out of town, go somewhere else, go to Allerton Park, Homer Lake, or another venue to sort of get away. But last year, we had this idea of using Blair Park because of all the new equipment, but the weather didn't cooperate, so we had to cancel last year. We didn't meet at all. So this year, we found good weather and a good window in November. And so we had a really good time and really gave staff a chance to check out those new amenities. I've never played pickleball, so that was my first time, many others' first time. I think everybody enjoyed that. Horseshoes, I don't believe I've ever played horseshoes, similar games, bag toss, other, bocce and things like that, but never horseshoes. That was really interesting too. Those kind of forever types of activities, you just part of, maybe the American culture, but we thought it would be a good fun time. The C2 wall was really fun. Everybody enjoyed that. We had an arts station, or kind of a play on words station that was fun. And then we had a team building exercise. So it was really fun, lunch, and just a good time for 3 hours. And I think everybody thought the park turned out really well. We got a lot of good ideas and comments. So please, thank you for catching that. And wanted to thank all the team that put that together. It's a lot of work, just making sure they pull together a special event for their own staff. So we're grateful. That's all I had.
No further questions for Tim? Moving on to the president's report. We've already talked about upcoming meetings that weren't listed here, so the December 5th will be the board study session, and at this time it's anticipated we'll be going over the health and wellness updates. And then the December 7th joint meeting for CUSR. And then on December 12th, we'll have the regular board meeting, and that's going to involve approval of the annual bond sale. So that's an important piece of that one. And we have to do some annual house cleaning to abate property taxes for the alternate revenue source bonds, and accepting an annual meeting calendar, reporting of a winning bid for the annual bond sale. Well, okay.
Yeah, and we'll be actually here to talk about the.
Okay. And the review and accept priority projects report for the Urbana Parks Foundation. So, and lastly, ADA transition plan update, which are we going to be covering that December 7th and then again on December 12th? So,
In a CUSR meeting.
yes, CUSR.
Oh, so, yeah, I think we were thinking more of like funds that we use with our ADA dollars that are really more directed for general. Then we have our UPD
And
sort
this
of
is-
capital. They all work together, but we kind of see them at least a little bit different.
In terms of liaison reports, the Finance Study Group did meet on the 27th of October. And boy, it's a bit of a blur. We talked a number of things about health and wellness, some of the ongoing issues with the drainage district and relative to the bridge that is now over it.
Mm-hmm.
I assume we still do not actually have a signed.
It's being signed. I just got an update that it is in process, so affirmative.
Okay. That was a good bit of the discussion there, and
Yes.
and some more about the Crystal Lake Park sewage bridge.
Yep.
Which,
We talked about Blair Park.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and Blair Park and the pavilion
Yep.
proposals there that have appeared in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and was there anything else?
No,
I mean,
nothing that we
anyway,
haven't
and we're planning to meet again on December 1.
Yep.
I gather the policy study group has not met,
Correct.
and Parks Foundation, Roger?
We met yesterday. I would say there was nothing new that we discussed, so.
And again, UPDEC has,
Looks like we're going to be
Yes.
meeting soon.
we'd be meeting soon. All righty. That takes us on then to old business, and for a change, we do actually have some old business. So we need to take action to approve our tax levy ordinance for 2023, ordinance 2023-03.
Just a reminder, last month we worked at that. Laura, did you have anything else to add?
No, you're.
I was just going to say, I think we
Same
reviewed
thing.
that collectively together, and now we do the action part to get the ordinance to approve that review and selection and black box.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance providing for the levying, assessment, and collection of taxes for the fiscal year 2024-2025 of the Urbana Park District.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. Then the next item is action to accept the 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which we dealt with at the study session.
So I move to, oh, are you going to talk about
No,
first?
I was just going to remind you that we had Sikich here to present at the study session, and certainly we had a complete sort of overview of the audit.
So I move to accept the 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the year ending April 30th, 2023.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. There was no old business removed from the consent agenda. And under new business, we need action to approve the 2024 capital improvement budget and revisions for the 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 capital improvement budgets.
Mm-hmm. Staff's worked
So-
together to make those recommendations.
Yeah, I'm going to start and just go through our highlighted revision sheets. I'll start with the oldest year first. I think they should be in order for you, but just stop me if you have any questions.
So just, wait, I'm gonna stop you. Which one are we looking for? The new
Oh,
handout?
19, no, that's
Oh, it's-
for
sorry,
gym equipment.
that's Jim.
this
Sorry, you're
one.
right.
This
Yeah, this
has,
one, the regular
uh,
memo.
Yeah.
Got it.
these.
Sorry.
So we released some funds from mechanical replacement, ITEP project, and that's the older ITEP project at Park Street, and funds, unused funds from the Nature Center Solar, and so those dropped down into the general contingency down at the bottom. That increased the overall contingency we now have available in 2019. In 2020, one item, which is releasing mechanical replacement to contingency. And so that mechanical replacement line, I'll just kind of remind everyone, that's a regular line that we keep every year, and it's basically just for us to kind of bank funds if we have any sort of mechanical issue or replacement needs throughout the year. And as we have older years that still have funds available, and we've built up newer funds in the newer years, we start releasing that to contingency where we can utilize that for other projects. So that's what we've done for this mechanical line, I think, in 3 different budgets. And that was it for 2020. 2021, we split the donation from Dawson for Meadowbrook Stream Corridor and took that from the tributes and donations line at the top in the revenue section. And then you'll see those shown in the expenditure to match. And then the UPD mechanical replacement schedule, that's also been released to general contingency. So it was 5,000, now it's at 0, and that additional 5,000 moves to the general contingency at the very bottom. And then we have some realized expenses actualized from projects that have wrapped up that have pulled from that contingency. So as we get those contracts paid off, now they're shown and they're pulling from that overall contingency line that we had. And a portion of the court repairs at King and Victory Parks, Meadowbrook Entry Gardens design, bridge evaluation, and exterior improvements to the cottage. Those were associated with some trim damage from the painting project. 2022. In the revenue section at the top, we're now showing our full anticipated reimbursement for preliminary and construction engineering associated with the ITEP Broadway project. The way ITEP works is IDOT pays for the construction contractor. We are under contract with the engineer. We pay the engineer, and then we send our invoices to IDOT to then reimburse us. So we're showing that as revenue in 2022 here. And then the other line that's highlighted in the revenue section is our Prairie Play OSLAD grant for $550,000. Those 2 lines are then reflected in the expenditures. In the equipment subcategory, what we've been doing the last few years is we keep our budget number as a contingency for vehicles and equipment, and as we actually purchase and receive the equipment or vehicle, then we pull that down, we actualize it, and then reduce the contingency. So here we've had a purchase of the athletics ball field gator. And then Crystal Lake improvements, similar thing here. We have one set of fundings that's going to be for all the improvements we're looking for at Crystal Lake. And we use a portion of this year's CLP improvements for water quality. And that's our contractual group that comes down and treats the water in the lake. And then final expenses in the overall contingency section for the court repairs at King and Victory, some additional parking lot striping at Crystal Lake, roof repairs to the cottage, and Blair improvements, additional pavilion redesign, which is for our OSLAD grant that we submitted last summer. And then 2023, so similarly with the equipment subcategory, we purchased the backhoe, so now that's pulling from that overall budget line. And then we had the final expenditure for the cottage painting, exterior painting, so now that's been finalized and then reduces the overall contingency for that year. Lots of revisions this time. If there's no questions on that, I was going to hop over to 2024. And so we brought the draft 2024 budget last month. There's just a couple minor changes. Starting in the revenue section, we added foundation funds that are associated for improvements to Carl Park. We had one of our priority painting projects was the Carl Park Pavilion, and so we've identified those funds from the foundation to be utilized for that improvement at the pavilion at Carl. ADA projects, moving into the expenditure section, planning on utilizing those funds towards Prairie Play. Vehicles and equipment is at $215,000. That's for 2 half-tons, custodial minivan, or potentially another transit for custodial staff. 2 72-inch mowers, and a grounds Gator utility vehicle. And then we have a lot of our regularly appearing expenditure lines. And I would note for technology, as we talked about last month as well, this is being combined with some earlier year technology funds that are still remaining for a website redesign that I think Mark is getting meetings set up right now to start kicking that off.
Not a redesign, a new,
New one. Yep.
new website.
And then this year also includes our second year of funding that we're putting together for improvements to Southridge path. And you see that in the trails projects as well as hardscapes and fencing. Some of that funding is also set for Prairie and Weaver athletic fields and amenities. Again, this could be things that come about from the study for Weaver. Also looking at potentially doing an OSLIDE grant for improvements immediately to the area surrounding Health and Wellness Center. Could be a pavilion, playground, some of those things that we had in our conceptual design phase.
I guess I just have a question since it's combined with Weaver. The trails is $40,000 estimate. What is it? Is it fencing at Southridge? Is it hardscapes? What do we?
So it's just every year it's called the hardscapes and fencing, and we
Okay.
set up a certain amount, and then we have notes to the side of basically what's going to where.
Got it.
And so with this one specifically, it's earmarked like $100,000 for Southridge and $50,000 for Prairie Weaver out of that. And then we had lake house boats, exterior beam painting at our planning and operations office here. And then I had already mentioned the Carl Park Pavilion ceiling painting. We did increase our contingency by removing the greenhouse. And last month we also had preliminary engineering for the Busey Woods Bridge. And now with some of our funds that have been released in previous years, we plan on paying for that out of those previous years' contingencies rather than using up 24 capital dollars for that. That gives us a little more breathing room for our contingency for that year.
So, any questions for Andy? Do we have someone who would like to make a motion?
I move to approve the 2024 capital improvement budget and revisions.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. Next up is action to approve purchase of Health and Wellness Center fitness equipment.
Andy.
So this is reappearing from last month, if you all remember. So this covers
Oh, right.
our cardio strength equipment that's in the redesigned north and central upstairs fitness spaces. Again, these are through the Sourcewell contracts with Midwest Commercial Fitness, and that's for their True and Octane fitness equipment. The only change that we have this month from last month is the removal of spin bikes.
So wait, it's not that it wasn't the right amount, it's just that we weren't planning on getting
Oh,
those at all?
it reduced by almost $20,000.
Yeah, I mean, we had
They
like
had spin
think we
bikes
had
still included in our
12.
program.
12, right?
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Right, okay.
So what happened with that, Cedric, was when we got the original proposal, we had not joined the 2 rooms from the cardio and the weight room. So the middle room was going to be designed for like a multi-purpose / spin room. And we've talked with a lot of people about spin classes, and they're very difficult. You got to have a lot of special instructors to really bring the people. Plus, we need the room for other things, so you have to move everything all the time. So anyhow, when we divided the room into one big room, more or less, the spin bikes should have been dropped off the list, and we didn't revisit it at that point, so.
Cool.
Good catch by Michael last month on that one.
Well, I move to approve the purchase of fitness equipment for the Health and Wellness Center in the amount of $137,431 to Midwest Commercial Fitness of Yorkville, Illinois.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. And now we're on to health and wellness gymnasium equipment.
And this is, you should have had a highlighted, revised, basically a second page to my memo, and then an updated proposal from H2I Group. That's the representative for the Porter equipment that we've been working with for probably over a year at this point. And it's been a coordinated effort with Farnsworth and with Core. We had a reduction in our proposal that I'll let Corky talk a little bit about, but that reduction happened after our packets were due to the cottage, and so we were bringing that as an updated recommendation to you all tonight. And H2I is also doing the installation for this equipment, and the equipment includes the gym curtains, the basketball hoops, backboards, the controller system for both of those, and the gym pads. And so H2I will be is our sales rep, but then they're also the installation group that's already under contract with Core for the installation. I'll let Corky talk a little bit.
Well, during our fundraising time, we actually met with Porter Athletics and we're talking to them about what kind of in-kind donation can you do, you know, because we're local and all that good stuff, and we'll take care of you. And so we seen the submittal, and I'm like, well, where is that in-kind? So I called Dalton, and we ended up getting an upgrade of controllers. So the controllers that run the basketball hoops, the dividers, those kinds of things. We got the top model for the same price of the base model that he was selling us originally. So that was like a $4,000 in-kind. Probably we get also all the graphics. It's about an $850 value, I believe they said. That's going to be for free. But the big piece is that when the building actually was completely designed, there actually needed to be some more support for the equipment, and that was about a $17,000. Was going to be a $17,000 upcharge or a change order for us, and they took that off. So altogether, Porter ended up just late last week coming up with about $21,000 in-kind / upgrades. So anyhow, they came through.
I'd say.
Terrific.
I would move to approve the purchase of fitness equipment for the Health and Wellness Center in the amount, approve the purchase of gym equipment for the Health and Wellness Center in the amount of $217,285 and a $5,000 contingency to H2I Group of Lombard, Illinois.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded.
That is.
It's like a mix of the two.
Oh, they're adding it together.
Well, no. One of them is
What's
yeah.
the
One of
memo?
them is
I don't get
the
it.
old one is 222,285. The new one is 217,297.
That includes the contingency.
That's with contingency.
Yeah,
Combined.
that's with the contingency.
Oh, right.
So it's really two.
So it's really, yeah, it's 212 plus
That's
the,
where I'm trying to go.
thank you.
Yep. 212, 285.
Okay, is the motion clear to all the commissioners?
I can withdraw.
So it's been moved and
Seconded.
and seconded. So it's on the table. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. IAPD conference delegate credentials.
It's that time of year to find out who would be representing us at the annual IAPD meeting. We have probably a number of staff attending, and certainly, as I typically do, I'm happy to serve if chosen. I don't know what folks' schedules are, but we do have to list somebody in this month's meeting. It's part of our official process to be able to vote if there is a vote taken.
Are there any commissioners who know they're going to be there?
Is it conference?
Yes, at
Yep.
state conference.
Already put in for the sub.
Yeah, I also plan on going as well.
I cannot commit to my
Yeah.
I can't either.
this one.
Well, Nora, so. Well, would you
Sure.
like to be the named delegate and a named alternate?
Sure.
And we maybe put Tim in as the second alternate?
And if something happened or someone had to leave conference, we'd have somebody listed officially. So where plans changed, we're covered. I'm happy to be the alternate, or however you would like to slate us.
Can you all 3 be designated? Why don't we just do that for simplicity's sake? So, I move to certify that Cedric Stratton, Laura Hastings, and Tim Bartlett are designated to serve as delegates to the annual 2024 business meeting of the IAPD.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. And that brings us to action to approve the purchase, and installation, and configuration of security cameras.
Derek, are you rolling with this?
Yep. So the Park District currently has 3 sets of security cameras. They're at facilities that were part of large capital projects over 10 years ago, here at Kerr, the outdoor pool, and the rehab of the Carl Pavilion. Emerging best practice guidance from legal about how these cameras should be operated suggests that they should be deleted at a regular interval. Ours don't have that capacity. They've also, as they've gotten old and long in the tooth, are pretty irregular in terms of how reliably they record video footage. With the new legislation on the use of the police fund, we're able to use the police fund to purchase capital products like security cameras, and the liability fund is suitable for installation. And so we've been planning to upgrade our security cameras for some time, kind of awaiting this new legislation. And so now with its passage, we're prepared to do so. So we've gotten updated proposals for all 3 facilities. There's other facilities on the horizon we'd like to add cameras to down the road, but we haven't budgeted for those yet. That'll be in the next fiscal year police budget. Places like the Lake House, which has been a frequent target of vandalism, would be one, and potentially other 2 big facilities, the Phillips Recreation Center and Nolio Cottage. An additional facility we know we're going to add cameras to is the Health and Wellness facility, and we're working with the same consultant to design a camera system for there. I've provided an updated memo for you all tonight. The change is in the equipment for these facilities. I appreciate Michael reaching out once he got the memo and asking some questions. As a result, we had a great conversation with our consultant today, and we're able to increase the quality of the cameras, the resolution, and modify the recording equipment at the outdoor pool at a reduced cost overall. And so in the updated memo, you'll see that we have a revised recommendation for a total cost, including a 5% contingency, of $72,180.56. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just wanted to say thanks to the staff team and Michael for helping work through that. Really helped us get to a better place at a better price, so we appreciate the input.
Awesome.
The, I just had a question about the funding, the police fund. You said we use that for background checks, but what is the current balance in that? Or, that's something that's allocated to us. It's not something we see on a regular basis, so that's why. I'm just
There's
curious.
roughly about $47,000 in there at the moment.
Okay.
We levy for it, and we usually only levy about 25,000 because it's an excruciatingly limited use fund.
Okay.
And so when we budgeted for our current fiscal year, FY24, the money that we had levied, you know, had already been levied for the 25,000. And this police fund did not get passed, if you will, at the state level until June 30th of this year.
Right.
So we were already in, right?
Yeah.
And we'd already levied, and so we couldn't really do anything more than what we already had in our bucket. So we know we spend an average of, I don't know, $3,000 a year maybe on background checks. So we kind of put that money aside because we know that's what, and whatever we have left is what we've been putting towards those 3 projects in this group here.
Can we levy more or we
And
capture?
so for FY, so this levy that we just did,
We did.
the full amount.
Okay.
So like 180-some thousand. It may not be what we get.
Right.
But it'll be markedly more than the 25,000 that we get. So I did at least levy for the max, knowing that we've got all these projects that we now are able to use these funds for. So.
Just another, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's why we're using capital contingency for the purchase of the cameras for the Carl Pavilion, to protect some of that police fund for background checks.
Right.
And planning for future, and we didn't,
So for future buildings, we can use this fund for,
Yes.
and take that off of the
Yes.
capital budget.
another thing that we have used that fund for in the past is if we use the Urbana police to be at the
That's what I
pool.
thought.
Yeah.
Or for
Special
the fair
events.
week, when they do
Yeah.
patrols overnight or something like that. So we have used it for some of that in the past, so.
And the alarm panels that we've upgraded, we used a little bit of the police fund for that too.
Or what?
The alarm.
Oh, alarm panels, okay.
Very happy with the law change. We've probably lobbied for, 25 years to look at those funds and the liability funds. So we saw some movement recently in that. It's very helpful to, I'm sure, every district.
So I did notice on here, when I was looking through this, there's like a monitor. Now, are there staff members that have like access through an app on their phones? I mean, I assume
Yep,
that we
yeah.
don't just have to look at it through the monitor, right?
Right. And with
Okay.
the old system we did, so
Oh.
that's a nice thing about this is we can do more regular checks to make sure it's working. And our current security policy, which we'll update, notes that the director designates who has access to that footage. We don't want anybody to be able to go in and
Right.
take a look at it. When we developed that policy, again, over 10 years ago, we were really concerned about how staff would feel about having cameras in the facility.
Sure.
Now it's almost the norm. You can't go
Right.
into a grocery store without,
Right.
being,
Just glad Derek mentioned that. Obviously, you've probably seen, for folks that have been on the board for a while, that progression with a lot of these things. We get an opportunity, start this, and then often, especially with technology, then there's improvements. You either keep up or get out or suffer the consequences. So as we continue, certainly keeping up and making sure that we're doing everything we can do to keep our facilities safe and accountable.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, not having security cameras can come back to your liability fund.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I move to award security camera purchase, installation, and configuration that includes a 5% contingency for a total of $72,446.21.
I think that's the old
Oh, sorry.
memo under
Where-
5 recommendation.
The back side.
Thank you, I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say to reconcile, but
I can do that again.
it's in the recommendation there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and it also has it specified. Okay, so I move to award security camera purchase, installation, and configuration. That includes a 5% contingency of $437.17, and the purchase, installation, configuration of $68,743.39 for a total of $72,180.56.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. There was nothing removed from the consent agenda, so we're down to Roman numeral 10, comments from commissioners.
Lots of people over at Blair Park already using that board.
Oh, the new
Oh,
practice
that-
board?
Great.
I mean, it was
I got
like,
an email compliment from the assistant tennis coach on how much better of a bounce that is.
Yeah.
It's a curved practice
it's
board.
curved. I was gonna say, I was gonna ask that, but my 5th grade neighbor explained it to me at the Stroll and S'mores Sunday, so I've got it now. I totally have more information than I needed, but yes, it's being well used.
Good.
And thank you for getting it done. I got chewed on at the farmer's market for are not having to. Why did we put up this fancy electronic game board and we didn't even have a place you
Right.
could bounce a tennis ball off of?
Right. You can use that fancy game board as part of that backboard, though.
I always want to echo Tim's comments about pickleball. Our retreat.
Yeah.
Like, we did an intro to pickleball before with a guy who's kind of the local guru for it, and this was, back when it's first becoming a thing. I didn't understand what we were doing then.
Right.
Andy instructed us on
Yeah.
pickleball, and I
Andy
left
taught everybody.
totally understanding how to score it, and it was a lot of fun. Denny's Indoors, our mechanic, was my partner. It was just, we had a great time. I'm interested in playing more.
That's fun.
Me too.
Yeah, it's gotta
I
stay
stayed
out of
on
the
the
kitchen.
0 number a lot, though. I didn't really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Any other commissioner comments? Well, seeing none, then we've exhausted our agenda, and I'll declare us adjourned.
Thanks all.
Thank you.